At 21, when I broke my neck, life seemed hopeless. All the dreams I had of having a family, a good job, enjoying the activities I was doing changed. Reading the Bible in context, that you might see how God is working and what He has a purpose in all these things. He had a purpose in my life, and He changed everything and made these things possible and changed what was empty and useless into something good. Hi, I'm Peter, and I'm from Breakneck Ministries. So, we're going to look at Genesis, and we're going to start with Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the deep face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. God can use even the days of creation to demonstrate what is necessary in our lives to be able to live for Him. Unusual for a lot of people to understand, being the days we live in, that promote the whole universe happening by accident, the whole universe beginning from nothing to everything. That's a scientific impossibility. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. We're talking about the earth was without form, that particular meaning of the word is simply meaning it is empty and desolate like a desert, and had nothing in it, nothing useful. And that's what it refers to when it says it is void. It is totally empty. So when the earth was there, God used day one to do something. He created light out of darkness. It says the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So it was God's intention to actually do something with this earth. You know, when you think that the earth was so void and empty, that it was just like this floating rock that had no use at all. You know, when I thought of my life at this time, after I broke my neck, wow, it's a change of life at 21. And all of a sudden your life goes from all the things you plan to do into totally different. You think that it's empty and useless. Well, God's idea, what He wants to do with us, His whole plan, He wants to bring something that is useless, and it's His job that He has the Spirit hovering over the earth, and He puts life upon this earth. He wants to bring light, and that's what we want. I expressed in the previous video how you never want to go into a room that's totally dark. You're hovering, or you're looking so carefully to find the light switch so you can find some hope and light. So you walk into the room, and all of a sudden everything becomes clear. And God works in our life in the same manner. Everything will become clear once that light shines in a dark room. And the light overtakes darkness. It's never the other way around. We can show that in John 1. That the light overtakes darkness. Darkness can never overtake light. That's a scientific fact. And so therefore, when God brings light into this dark world, that's how He begins creation on day one. He brings light. And there you see the earth, and it's empty, and it's a desert, and it's void of any usefulness. And you know, our lives are the same way when we have no hope. It seems like it's impossibility to do anything that is useful when no family, no hope of a job. Things, the activities I like to do, like sports, which I loved, I felt at the time were an impossibility. So what does God do? Well, when He had the Spirit hover over the earth, It's a significant thing. So it was the Spirit of God that changed things as he looked and hovered over the earth. And when he did that, he saw confusion, emptiness, and not that he didn't know that. He did know that. But the emptiness had to change. And God knew that, and from the beginning, before the foundation of the world, God was already moving to do something with this earth. He had a plan. Even before earth, this void rock was even placed there by God. So therefore, what he did was, well, look at that verse again. What he did here, then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. What a fantastic phrase. After the Spirit of God hovered over the earth, and God said, he spoke the word, and he said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That's the power of God, right? That's the power of God working on the earth, and all he had to do was the spoken word. That's how powerful God is. And that's hard for people to understand, mainly because they're so natural thinking, scientific thinking. Well, God is beyond natural. He is the supernatural. It's funny, we always think of these superheroes and have supernatural abilities, but somehow we can't grasp the concept that God, the creator himself, is supernatural. And when he was in the beginning, he created time, space, and matter. Verse 1. So now he's creating light. And that light reveals and offers hope. It brings things that were dark light. And we always look at darkness as being, well, something that's bad, right? When we think of a person's dark, it means they're depressed and sad. Well, he can do things better. He can bring light, and he does. And so when he saw the light, that it was good, he divided the light from darkness. When he divided the light from darkness, he wanted to show us that there's two things. There's dark and light. Without darkness, we wouldn't know what light is. We would just only know dark. This light that he brought to the world to shine on the earth was the hope that God showed that we can have. And throughout the scriptures, he shows the light of the world. He shows that he cares about you. And he wants to bring you from that darkness into the light. So through creation, he's showing you that there's a hopeful world. What some people want to do with evolution is eliminate the hope, saying, well, this is all an accident, therefore telling you you're an accident. But you're not an accident. God has a plan for you, as he had a plan for me, even though I broke my neck. Felt at the time when I was face down in the water, I was thinking. I was awake. I'll tell you my story sometime in the future. You're just going to have to keep watching these videos. But I had time to think while I was face down in the water, unable to move. And you think, well, what have I lost here? I lost my ability to move. I lost my ability for everything. And it was shortly after that I thought, well, I can't have a family. I can't have a child. I wanted a life that would be fulfilling. And I thought that was an impossibility. Well, God does the impossible. And he did for me. And throughout these videos, you'll see that how God turned my life into something that was useful for him. This world at the time of creation, it was useless. It was empty. And God did. He changed it. On the very first day, he changed it. And he said it was good. That's such an important thing. Verse 4. That light, when he saw that light, it was good. You know, some people say, how can you say this world is good? Well, it wasn't initially. It was a rock. When he brought light, the light was good. And he divided the light from darkness to make sure that we know good and bad. And not necessarily darkness here in this case is bad, but it's not a good thing to be in darkness. So you can draw your conclusion from that. So when he called light day, which he says in the scripture again, I don't want to go back and forth too much. In verse 5, God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And no, that's why we get day and night. And later on we'll see how he develops that. But so the evening and the morning were the first day. And so we wonder if creation, if the first 6 days of creation are actually literal days. Well, we see that evening and morning is the same thing that we have today. And some may dispute how long the day was. That's not important right now. What is important is, as we read through the context, we'll see that we have a creator who wants us to have light. And in order for us to have light, we have to believe in him. The hope that we have in God gives us light. Just like my soul, there was a time in my life where the Spirit hovered over me, Spirit touched my heart, and saw that there was light and hope in this world. I had to believe him, and I had to trust him. The Bible tells us a lot of things, and what it does tell us that God does the impossible. He will change something impossible into something that is good. I do have a family now. I have a son. That's a miracle. And again, keep watching the videos. You'll see that miracle is something that shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have had a son. But I did. He gave it to me. He did the impossible. And we'll, in future, talk about that. But that makes God show. He wants to demonstrate through the dark times in our life how he offers us light, that there is hope in him. What I was doing before was a lot of uselessness, a lot of things that were not very helpful. Nothing for God, all for myself. Well, the activities he gave me, I did a lot of things that were wrong, morally wrong, as even in today's society. There was things that I regret. But one of the things he did, he's changing things. As creation, you'll see how he changes this void, empty desert rock. And he changes them into something marvelous and something that God calls good. And it's a picture of something he does to a person as well. It's not only real and true that he did this, but he did this to show us that he has a purpose for you, and he can change what you need as well, as he did me. Oh, it's a marvelous thing. When he calls us out, this verse struck me. I want to read a verse, and I'm just going to read it to you. It's found in 2 Corinthians 4 and 6. It says, "For it is the God who commanded light to shine out of darkness, who has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ." See, what the purpose of reading through the Bible in its context, that's why important. Many people are taking a verse out of context and running with it. We want to look at the Bible in its context. Read it verse by verse, chapter by chapter, in order that we see, and you see, how it is supposed to be written. It's supposed to be understood. And how God communicates his message to us, even to day one of creation. Everywhere in the Bible speaks of Jesus Christ. He wants us to bring into his marvelous light. Jesus Christ said, "I am the light of the world." And that light gives us hope. That life gives us life. He also said he was the life. And so when we look at the scriptures, even in the Old Testament where his name isn't specifically said, throughout the scriptures you'll see that Jesus Christ is everywhere in this book called the Bible. He's written everywhere. And when we have him in our minds as we read through the verses, you'll see him. You'll see how creation, how the law, how all these things throughout the scriptures, the history, the Psalms, etc. How he will reveal himself to you if you're willing to be open to him and ask him. Pray before we have these meetings. Pray before you watch the videos to ask God to reveal himself to you. And I will show you parts of how he worked marvelously in my life throughout the 40 years of being in a wheelchair. It's a long time. So, continue to watch the videos. He can change my life. He can change yours. He can bring you hope, as he did me. I'm nothing special. I'm a person with a disability, one who got hope from Jesus Christ and made my life into something useful. He took away the useless things, and he gave me something very useful, making life worth living today. Thanks for coming, and hope you join us in the next video.